In today's episode of Cyber Stories, I had the great pleasure of interviewing Tay, also known as TayOnTech, and we talked about his journey into becoming a senior cybersecurity engineer. I've been following Tay online for the last 3 to 4 years now, and his Twitter threads from 3 to 4 years ago really played a huge role in my journey to cybersecurity when I was just getting started. So it was really great having this conversation with Tay about various things that really kickstarted his journey earlier in his career, like internships, certifications, CTFs, and several other things. And we'll go over all of these things in today's video. Let's get right into it. Yo, how's it going, Tay?
How's it going, man? How's everything going?
Pretty good. I was gonna start us off by just like talking about how we literally just met in person like 2 days ago. I've known you online, specifically on Twitter, for at least like 3 or 4 years now, but then
Mm.
like only like mutually connected online, let's say like a couple months ago, and then met in person for real like 2 days ago.
Now, that was actually funny though, because like when you had said something to me in my head, I'm like, we already know each other because we always communicate. So it's like it didn't feel like that was our first time meeting. So I guess
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
no, 100%. And I say that to say, I say that because, like I said, I've followed you online for like the last 4 years now. So like that was like when I was in freshman year of college,
Mhm.
which was like 3 years now, and like I remember always reading your Twitter threads. So back then
Mhm.
you had like at least like 6 or 8 different Twitter threads, and I would always read those threads, and I was like, bro, I want to be like this man. Like I would read everything. I'll be like, okay, so he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this. Okay, so I was like, okay, he did a home lab, so I went to do my own home lab. He did this, he did his internship. Like I literally like I read all your threads like diligently all the time, and I want to say like they had a really huge impact in my career. So shout out to you for all that information back then.
Yeah, no, man, you definitely at the age that you're at right now and doing what you're doing, you're definitely way ahead of what I was at that age. So kudos to you.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that's one thing I like about that is the fact that information like that is like so readily available, and all that you need to do is just like apply it. Because like
Mhm.
this is like a blueprint for what worked for you, and anyone could just take that and run with it, which is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. So kind of like going over your experience and everything like that.
Mhm.
To who exactly Tion Tech is. So let's get started by you introducing yourself. Who is Tion Tech?
Tay on Tech or Tay?
Ooh, okay, who is Tay, and then who is Tion Tech?
All right, no. So Tay, from a small town, from Mississippi. I moved to Texas about 8 years ago, specifically for my career. Honestly, when I was thinking, or whenever I was looking to go into school and things like that, I didn't really think I'll be nowhere near doing what I'm doing right now. Like I thought maybe I was gonna probably be like a Geek Squad manager or even a small time business owner, maybe like have a sneaker store or anything like that. Like I was always good with technology and all of that, but to this extent of things, I didn't think it was going to be like that. I used to like fix iPhones, fix laptops. I used to always do things like that. And when I went out to college, I went to the University of Mobile. I also ran track there too. And I was majoring in business marketing. Hated it. It was it was boring. Like it was so boring. Like it didn't do it for me. So I was like, okay, cool. Like let me do political science. Change to political science. Too much reading for me. Too many papers. I was like, this is not good. Like this is. I don't like any of this. At that point, I started thinking like, man, maybe just school is just not for me.
Mm,
And I remember I'm like, yeah, well, I've always been good like technology, at least taking stuff apart. And that's at this point, I had no idea that the tech industry was a thing. I didn't know, I didn't know about cybersecurity, network engineering. I know about programming a little bit, but it never really just crossed my mind. And so I ended up moving out here in Texas. And when I moved here to Texas, I decided I was going to go to junior college for a little bit, save a little money there. And one of my professors, he was just telling me I was taking like these intro to like information technology courses and all of that. And that's when everything started opening. Like I started taking programming classes, I started taking like networking classes, and then I took my very first intro to cybersecurity class.
mm,
And all the other courses and classes, like they caught my attention, but it was just something about cybersecurity, just like that first intro class, like I was hooked. Like I
mm,
was staying up 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like always reading new labs. Like I was always learning new skill. Like it was like extremely fun for me to learn it. And so at that point, like I just went with it. I ended up graduating within 2.5 semesters. I already had like credits that I transferred over from another college,
Right.
and which I was also terrible. I had like a point 0.8 GPA leaving that school because I was never going to class.
Mm,
After I did that, I started picking up internships, and at the time, for me, I can't say I got really lucky with my first internship. I ended up going to like a capture the flag event, and it's a very known guy out here in the DFW. At least he used to be here. I believe he's like in Indianapolis or something like that. And they call him Hermit, Brian Mort. And we was on the same team, and he was really interested in like my skill set, like my passion to it, and he gave me an internship. And pretty much every internship or job offer that I got after that was in a result from him. And even at the time, I had multiple internships offered. That was also paying me more money, but I realized if I got under him and learned everything he was learning, that it would pay off way more at the end of the day. So I ended up doing that. And yeah, that's kind of where the beginning of, I guess, TayOnTech. And then I started sharing like all the things that I was going through to get into the industry.
mm,
I was able to get internships. Like every time I create a lab, I would be posting, "Hey, I just created this new lab. I just created this cool new Python script." Like I was always sharing this on LinkedIn, so
mm.
like other people can see. Like recruiters, I was always connecting with recruiters online, so they can see what I'm doing. Like I was like really networking, and
Yeah.
like I'm very much so introvert. So I don't. I guess like it's kind of hard for me networking, but when it came to that, I was extremely good at it, like with talking with people when it came about my career and things like that. Outside of that, I suck at networking. When it comes to my career and
Yeah.
like I'm good with it.
Yeah, and I think that that applies to like something that anything you're really passionate about. Like, there's a lot more confidence with when it comes to talking about it. So whether
Mhm.
or not like you're introverted or not, it's like you have the confidence because like this is what you do, and you have the skills and the knowledge to easily like validate what you're able to do. So like you can just easily talk about it with anybody, regardless of if you know them or not.
Exactly. And that's the one thing about cybersecurity. Like even when I started talking about it, like people like, man, you really look like I hear passionate. Like it's just because it's something that I can easily talk about
Hmm.
and don't have to think about it. It just flows out. It just comes out. Like even sometimes like I talk to some of my friends, they're not like per se in cybersecurity, but they may be like in the tech industry, and I just kind of get to talking about cybersecurity, like what's going on in the news. Like, bro, what are you talking about? I was like, okay, I can't go too deep in technicals. Like, I know
Yeah.
y'all know what I'm talking about, but y'all don't
Hmm.
probably understand like the gravity for like what this really means. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, we had met up at like Trayvon's birthday dinner, and we just
Hmm.
started talking about cloud threat detections and
Yeah.
everything. And the conversation just like it was very smooth, and
Yeah.
I love having conversations like that. So,
No, absolutely. I love that. And I was going to ask you, like, what that journey was getting into cybersecurity, but you kind of already broke that down. But what I want to dig deeper into is like, you talked about getting your first internship, from
mm,
that capture the flag event, and
mm,
how, most or all of your other roles after that were as a result of some connection from that first internship. But let's talk about your ability to like have internships literally almost every year of college, right? Because if we go on your LinkedIn now, you have literally you have internships like back to back to back to back until your first like full-time job after college.
uh,
So how was that like? How was it like combining college and then doing these internships and studying on your own? Like how were you able to I know you talked about how you were able to secure these internships as a result of connections, but how are you able to manage these internships and also like continue like having the opportunity to get more internships after that over the course of your college career?
Okay, so what a lot of people don't know, because I really don't tell them this. So while I was also in junior college, I was like a knock analyst for Southwest Airlines. So like I was doing like network analyst work, and I actually was able to get that through a recruiter when I was working at Best Buy. Like I broke down, I was explaining to him like what was going on with his laptop, and he was like, "Hey, like, are you in school right now?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I think I got a perfect opportunity for you. Is it's 12 hours a day on the weekends only. I
Mm,
was like, okay, cool. And it was literally like network operations and stuff like that. Like monitoring the network systems and all that. Actually managing Linux systems and all of that. So I was at 19 doing that.
Mm-hmm.
No, 18, yeah, 18 or 19. It was one of them. Because I think it was like my second year of college. And when after I left there, like I put that on my resume, and with me having that knowledge, and then also the capture the flag events and all of that stuff, then I got the very first internship, which came from connections. And after that, he actually the very first internship, he wanted to bring me on like for the following semester, but they didn't have the budget for it. And so I was like, hey, like I have a great friend that works in at McAfee, and I can get you an internship there. I was like, okay, cool. So I had the interview. Interview went amazing. Honestly, like I didn't have to. They only made me do one interview. Like it's typically like a 2 or 3 step interview with that, but because his word kind of carried over, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're just gonna hire him right over. And that's actually where I met Ari at the internship.
Yeah.
And so after I left that internship, then I went to Baylor Scott and White, which is basically like a hospital in the Dallas area. And so my thing with me getting multiple internships, it was more so I wanted to see how cybersecurity was done in each industry, because it's completely done differently in hospitals. I don't think I would ever work in a hospital again when it comes to cybersecurity. Just way too much red tape stuff. It's a lot. It's great for forensic work and stuff like that, but the innovation, the tech is trash. I went in oil and gas, which was also selling these. Also did Cisco. That was like my very last internship before I started working full time. And I didn't have really too much of great experience with that. I've talked about this a few times on social media,
Yeah.
but overall, like the manager I worked for, it was great. Like the company itself was great. It was the interns that I came in with that was the problem. So it wasn't Cisco itself. So
Right.
Cisco, y'all didn't do anything wrong. But I did feel like it was a certain situation that they didn't handle. I didn't think they handled it the way. Yeah, I don't think they handled it appropriately. But outside
Right.
of that, it was a great time working for Cisco or interning for Cisco.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's like one of the really really unique things about your experience, like being able to like secure internships, one after another all the way to your college education, and also like the wide breadth of experience you were able to get like in college. So like over the course of like your college career, you probably built like 2 to 4 years of experience cumulatively and across like various industries. So like when you're coming out of college, you have the internship experience, like you have your college degree, you already have some certifications, I believe, which we might talk about later on. So like all of this and all together like puts you in a really good position right after college. So let's talk about how you were able to like really stand your ground and like come into the industry after college as a mid-level professional, or whatever level you were at, but you didn't want to go in as like a new grad or like some newbie or like some entry-level professional. You were like, I already have all these internships, like I already built all this experience right over the last couple of years. I have all these certifications, like I have the skills to really come in and start in a company and be able to start making things happen. So let's talk about that experience. What did that look like for you, transitioning from that internship experience into full-time after college?
So I actually ended up starting my full-time gig this semester I was supposed to graduate. Like immediately after I left city, I started working my full-time gig like maybe 2 weeks later. And
Right.
so the thing with that is like I had a lot of offers actually coming out, but most of them wanted me to come into like the new grad programs and things like that. And typically, what people don't really realize when you come into like the new grad program or university recruitment programs and things like that, you're still going to be doing the same exact work as the other analysts or engineers, but but you're going to get paid way less
Right.
than that. And so, and I knew and I understood, if you're going to hire me in, like, don't hire me through a university program, because you guys are basically trying to cap my pay and pretty much kind of extract all my value, my valuable information or my skill set and thing like that for like this price. I'm like, no, I know if I come in, I can make an immediate impact with
Yeah.
whatever company that I go to. And so it was just one company that did not try to force me to go into a university program or anything like that, which is Optive. So you work there as well too.
Yeah.
And so I stayed there for about 8 months. And the work, it was it was pretty cool, but it was like extremely repetitive. It was like I was doing more challenging stuff in my internships, and I didn't feel like my skill set was growing. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was learning as much. And so one of my managers from my old internship, the ones that I received when went to the CTF and all of that, he
Yeah.
contacted me and was like, "Hey, like, are you interested in consulting? Like, we're looking for security consultants here at Booz Allen." I was like, "Yes, like this is perfect." Like, yeah,
Hmm.
that was paying me like $30,000 more than what that was like Opta was paying
Up
me. So
there. Yeah.
I was like, cool, yeah, I'm there. And, like,
Yeah.
sign me up. And so the interview process for that was like extremely easy because again, I already knew him. He already knew my skill set. He had been speaking highly of me. And so like I went to consulting for about 2 years, and that was probably the best experience. Honestly, consulting is the reason why I'm probably as good as I am now when it comes to
Mhm.
cybersecurity. Because I got man, I got through in fire for real. It forced
Yeah.
me to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I imagine like getting put in like different projects that you're not familiar with and immediately having to adapt and like learn new things on the go. Like, how was that experience? Like, you already said like they threw you in fire, but like, how did you manage that experience? How did you, let's say you were put on a project today and like today you have to learn how to use this tool or whatever for this client. And
Mhm,
you're on this engagement for I don't know how long it could be, like 2 to 3 months,
mhm,
and you have to deliver on this, right?
mhm.
So how did you like be like, okay, I have to learn this and make sure I get this done and get it done very well for my client within the next 3 months. What did that look like?
Man, a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah.
At the time, in consulting, you traveling a lot. And at that time, like I was traveling, I believe, like was it Jersey or Seattle? No, Seattle. I was going to Seattle a lot, and they were telling me, "All right, well, we want you on this Splunk, architecture team." Like I came in here for instant response. Why am I doing Splunk architecture?
Mm,
So that's what they was looking for. And at this time, I've worked with Splunk, like power using like queries, things. I've
mm,
never done any type of administration, never done
mm.
any architect, haven't nothing. Like I'm literally, honestly, I was just getting to the point where I was comfortable enough to just search throughout Splunk.
Yeah.
Man, like when I got there, I realized what I was going to be doing. Every time I get off work, I'm literally in a hotel studying, trying to figure it out. I'm on Reddit, I'm on Splunk forums. I'm
Mm,
just trying to figure everything that I can figure out. And I kid you not, the amount of data and information that I consume within like that first week, crazy. So
yeah.
like it's different when like you just learn to learn
Mm,
when you're trying to learn so you can apply it in like a real world situation. And so that's what
yeah.
I try to tell people, like when they're trying to like go for certifications and things like that, they just like learning, like they're
Mhm.
memorizing things. They're not actually applying it to real world. So you're not going to actually understand and retain information. And so with that happening, I was just like it retained easy. And like when it came to certifications, whenever I did want to take them, it was so easy for me to pass them because
Mm,
I've actually been hands on doing it. Like when the CYSA Plus came out, I didn't even study for it. Like this was around the time like it first came out. I think it was
yeah.
out for like 2 or 3 months. I took it and I passed it, and I was like, oh, like applying actual skills of what you're doing every day
Yeah.
will beat out studying and memorizing every time. That's why when people ask me about, actually, I'm going too deep in there because I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be a question you're going to ask.
Right. Yeah, no, but I think, what you said about learning to apply is the absolute best way to learn. Like for me, like when I joined Datadog, like there were so many things I had no knowledge about. And it was like my first engineering role. So I was like you said, it was a couple of sleepless nights for like a couple of weeks. But like as I started getting like, used to these things and I was actually applying them in my job, it was much easier
Yeah.
for me to learn. Compared to like when I was taking certifications just for the sake of taking the certification. It's like
Yeah.
I'm learning these things to actually use them at work because if I'm
Yeah.
going to be successful at my job, I have to know these things. So taking that approach definitely helped me a lot. But I do think like it could be difficult for people who are not in a role where they're able to like actually apply these things
Agreed.
that they're learning in the certification. But I think that's kind of where hands-on labs come in. Where you're practicing, or even CTFs, right? And give you the ability to conceptualize these things, maybe not in a real world environment, but something a little close to it. That way, when you're actually in that situation, you can actually like
Mhm.
apply that knowledge. So I think that's definitely valuable insight. let's talk about certifications. So I think this is always a funny topic. And depending on who you're talking to, and their perspective of it, and also their experience with certifications. I know you have taken a ton of certifications, right?
Yeah.
Whether in college or even after college, especially certifications, Splunk, Red Hat certifications, like so. I imagine some of these certifications might have been beneficial to your career,
Mhm.
but in general, like, what is your take on certifications, right? Let's say for entry level, mid level, and at your level now, senior level, what is your take on certifications at those levels?
So I feel like certifications are beneficial. Like when you're trying to make career transitions, because it's basically showing them that you have the ability to do continual learning. Like when you're
Mm,
in this space, you have to continue to learn. Like if not, you're going to get left behind.
yeah.
So I think it's good for demonstrating that. But like studying for certification just for the sake of like, I guess for attaining skills, it don't really do it for me because the thing is like people don't actually study for them. They memorize it, the answers,
Mm,
they go get dumps, they just memorize the terms. They're not actually applying what they learn. So at that point, like they're not learning or taking the certification to get the skill set.
mm,
They're studying for the certifications to say, hey, I have the certification.
yeah.
Now I am qualified to do this job. And that's not the case. And honestly, when I first got into the industry, I was the same exact way. I was talking to my Geek Squad manager. I was like, yeah, I get my A plus, my net plus, my security plus. I'm gonna do it because at the point I was doing computer sales and I was like, I was trying to get to Geek Squad. And he was
Mm,
like, you don't need that to get a Geek Squad, man. I was like,
mm,
what? I'm like, in my like, and this is just Geek Squad. So just think about like on a corporate level. So I ended up getting all these certifications or whatever. My school was actually paying for them, so that was great. Like it had got to the point like my teacher's like, oh, if you pass the certification, I'll automatically give you an A. I was like,
mm,
cool, like easy. And
yeah.
so like as I started to like talk with more hiring managers and just really get an understanding, bro, they don't really care like about it. Like if you have the skill set, but don't get me wrong, I feel like certification is also more so like an HR thing, like to get screened and get past them so
Yeah.
that the hiring manager can see your resume.
Mm,
But overall, I do think they are helpful. But because of like how social media is nowadays and like how people aren't really clear about it, because you got to think about it when like come to a release a set and say, oh, like 80% of security plus holders make over six figures.
yeah.
Well, you got to realize I've been in the industry for about 8 years now, and I
Yeah.
got this certification when I was like 18 or 19. Now
Right.
it makes six figures. So it's
Yeah.
like I think they're pretty much kind of taking like the experienced people experience and taking their salary and like, oh, okay, well, obviously if I'm 8 years in the game and I took the certification 6 years ago, of course I'm be making six figures. So I
Right.
think it's like the survey is very misleading.
Mm,
And when these individuals get these certifications, they automatically think they're qualified and they don't realize just like the fact that you have this the certification, it just basically means you have a basic understanding of what security is. Like
yeah.
that doesn't mean you can apply it. It doesn't mean it just means you know the difference between HTTP and HTTPS,
Right.
honestly. So
Yeah.
that's how I look at certain certifications, unless people are actually really doing it. Like even now, like when people ask me like what certification do they like should I recommend for like entry level, I say security blue team level one. Cause
Yeah.
I I say
Yes,
that every
sir.
time because like for the price for what you're going to get,
Yeah.
it's better than security plus, like
Yeah.
in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And but if you're trying to go government, I can understand why you want to get the security plus. But if you're not trying to
Hmm.
go government or anything like that, I feel like security blue team level one certification is the best certification for an entry level person. They're going to teach you networking. They're going to teach you how to use a SIM.
Yeah.
Security is not teaching you that. Security plus is not teaching you that.
Exactly.
So they're
Exactly.
actually teaching you how to be an analyst. And before I even know about like blue team level one, I would tell people I feel like the CYSA plus is a better certification than the security plus because again, the CYSA plus teaches you how to be a security analyst.
Mm,
And you're just taking like the blanket skills or terms from the security plus. It's like, okay, cool. I can't really apply this, not teaching me how to apply. It's just teaching me terms and what it do.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
teaching me how to actually use it. So yeah, I can go on and on about
Yeah.
certification, man.
Yeah.
But
No, I think at this point, like especially in the industry, it's like it's just a like a broken record, like it not what I don't even know the term what that term is, but it's like when you keep repeating something over and over again, over and over again, it's like this is not how it works. This is how it works, and people are still asking the same question over and over again. It's like,
Yeah.
when are you going to learn? But I definitely agree with the fact that Blue Team Level 1 and certifications that are more practical are definitely the way to go because personally, I took the Blue Team Level 1 after like a year and a half of experience in cybersecurity, but I still
Mhm.
learned a lot from it, right? I've been working as an analyst for at least over a year, but even taking it was like, oh, okay, this is the real deal. Like going from just like doing analyst work to then doing incident response, which is like the next stage of it in the
Yeah.
security Blue Team Level 1 was like almost a shock because it was like, okay, every day I go into work and I literally just like look at the alerts and I triage them. It's very repetitive. I know
Yeah.
what's coming and I can analyze it. Like it's very easy. But going from that to like doing a full scale incident response process for 24 hours and writing a whole report on what I did
Completely different.
was totally different. And what I like about that is because when you're doing things or you're doing things above your knowledge or skill level, it helps you be better at your current skill level. So if I'm doing incident response things as an analyst, it automatically makes me a lot better. So I'm better at like threat hunting, like
Yeah.
searches, like actually triaging because I have done this like higher level of like security work, which is like incident response. Although it's an exam, it's not a real world incident,
Mhm.
but it's very, very realistic. Like you're actually using the tools, you're using
Yeah.
Splunk, you use volatility for like forensics. Like
Yes.
it was crazy and like it completely changed my skill level like in regards to that. So I definitely agree with like the security boots level 1. And I think I took the CYSA plus before the blue team level 1. Yeah, I took it before the blue team level
Mhm.
1. And personally, I still felt like it still had that CompTIA element to it where it's like
Yeah.
it's not practical, it's multiple choice, but it's like you know you're only learning the terms, right? You're just like
Yeah.
it's like a step above the security plus. You're learning the terms like in how they have context for being an analyst, but you're not actually doing the analyst work or the
Yeah.
response work. But definitely like it's Blue Team Level 1, like any day, anytime. I will always recommend
Yeah.
them.
Every time. And like at
Yeah.
this point, I'm like, hey, God, just make me a sponsor because I talk about it so much. I'm like,
I
yeah.
know. I know. Like I've made at least like 4 or 5 videos on them alone. At this point, I'm like, I need to like send them an email like, please sponsor a video, please. Um, but hopefully we'll see what happens. But back to college. So you talked about college sponsoring your certifications and all of that. But
Mhm.
another thing that's really really unique about your college experience is the fact that you graduated not with a cybersecurity, not with an IT degree, not with a
Mhm.
networking degree. You didn't graduate with a career science degree. What did you graduate with?
So I have a degree that's called integrated studies. At other company, I mean, at other colleges, it may be like interdisciplinary studies or something like that. And that's basically like one of those degrees you could just say, hey, I went to college and I got a piece of paper. Like it's one of
Right.
those. But on paper, that's what it says. But like the actual classes and courses I took, I actually have an engineering degree, if that makes sense. So like I was
Mm,
taking computer science. So the thing about the integrated study degree plan is you get to choose 3 schools that you want to attend. Not say schools like the School of Business, School of Engineering, School of like Learning Technologies, and things like that within the college. So the 3 that I chose was the School of Engineering. I chose the School of Business, which houses business computer information systems, and the School of Information, which is basically like learning technologies and things like that. So it's like I got all of my like technology classes and things like that throughout that. And so what make so the difference between what I have and what actual college or engineering degree majors have, I didn't take any math or science. So
yeah.
if I would have took math and science, I would have pretty much had it. But at UNT, they had like so many restrictions for like taking programming classes. You got to take like physics 1, physics 2, calculus 1. Like I didn't take a single math class in college. I took like calculus AP in college, so I got the credit there.
Mm,
And when I got to college, like I was taking like, say for instance, if I needed to take Cal 1 in physics to take like an entry level programming class, I would go to the neighbor community college, which was also cheaper, take
yeah.
it there, and then transfer it back over to the college.
Mm,
And that's how I would get over with not having to take some of those pre qualifications. And so I
Yeah.
was also saving money, and I also not having to take unnecessary classes that had nothing to do with what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
that took a lot of planning for sure. Like I didn't even go to like my school counselors or anything like that. When I went there, it was like, hey, this is what I want my schedule to be. Like I didn't get advice from them or anything like that because I knew exactly what I wanted to do and I
Yeah.
knew how I was going to do it. So basically with them, it was like, hey, well, can I do this? It was more so me going to them, asking advice for something I've already planned. So
Yeah.
and again, I don't really like I wouldn't really like recommend people to take that degree plan unless you know exactly what you want to do.
Hmm.
Because at that point you're really in control of like how you going to do things, what do you want to do. It's real easy to get like lazy and just start taking BS courses just to get a
Mm.
degree, but you actually want to take courses and things like that. It's going to help you get new skill sets and all of that. So you definitely have to be disciplined and
Yeah.
create like your own schedules and things like that. And because in my opinion, like I've never had like a great experience with like my college counselors or advisors because I never really got like the best advice from them.
Hmm.
So I just kind of took it in my own matters to kind of create my degree plan.
Yeah. And I think like also due to the fact that you kind of already knew you were already in the industry and you kind of already had like that plan set up for yourself. So it was like college was more of a formality for you. It's like you already have the experience, you have the skills, you have the connections, you have the certifications. So if I imagine if you were to do a regular college program, whether it was like an IT or computer science program, it might have even slowed you down, right?
Yeah, it definitely would slow me down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is kind of crazy, but because the thing is, like, a lot of people don't know, I actually went to community college as well too. So I got
Hmm.
a cybersecurity degree from. So I, in that aspect of things, I have a cybersecurity degree, but
Yeah.
those are like associates of applied science. So it's
Right.
not like a lot of those classes would not transfer to university because it's
Hmm.
like very career specific and things like that. It's not, sometimes that kind of some electives and things like that, but a lot of times they won't. So it's like I already had the experience, and at this point, I actually thought about not going to college, but my mom was like, "No, like you only got 3 semesters left, 3 semesters left.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish it." I'm like, "All right, cool, I'll do it for you."
Yeah.
Because when I graduated from community college, I'd already had like job offers,
Yeah.
and so when I went to UNT, I was like, "Okay, cool. Like if I'm not gonna work full time, I'm just gonna have an internship every semester." So like,
Hmm.
let me keep doing that. So that's kind of like the reason why I did it.
Yeah. No, my experience was exactly the same. Like I didn't finish my community college. I didn't want to continue my community college. My mom didn't want me to drop out. So I was like, okay, I'll go to WGU. Started WGU, transferred on my credits, and then middle of WGU, I started interviewing with Amazon and Datadog. So I was like,
Mhm.
I need to focus on these interviews.
Mhm.
Then I got the Datadog offer, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple of months off of school. It's not, I know, like that thing. I told my mom, I was like, I want to drop out. Like I don't need this education anymore, right? At this point, like I already have all these certifications. Not that they matter, but like I had the experience. Like I was working at a company that didn't care, didn't care about my degree when they hired
They
me. So
did
it's not like
it.
it's like
Octave.
yeah, Opta didn't care about my degree
Yeah, they
either,
didn't
right?
agree
No
either.
one. So it was like I was like, okay, I don't need this degree. I was like, I was gonna drop out. My mom was just like finish the program, right? So that's kind of how I finished my WG program. And I personally think like now in this day and age, like WG is like a cheat code for like college
No, for
education.
sure.
One
I
hundred
actually
percent.
contemplated going to WGU. Like the thing is, the only reason why I didn't want to go, I didn't go to WGU because I still want like the social
Mm,
like standing or social life of how it feels to be at college, like in a
yeah.
cross fraternity and all of that.
Hmm.
So it's like if it wasn't for that, I would have been at WGU. Like I had looked into it and all of that
Hmm.
because it made more sense for me. Like I complete this in 6 months. Why would I not? Like I've already got my college degree. I already had like my A plus, Net plus, Security plus, Red Hat certified. So like all those certifications, they also allow you to transfer in
Transfer
there,
them.
so
Yeah.
you don't have to take certain classes. So I was like, why, like, and it's cheaper. Like, why would I not? So
Yeah.
honestly, like, if I was to go all back over in, like, now I'd probably still go to college. I'm not gonna lie, just because like all of the stuff I learned and the friends
Mm-hmm.
I made. But if I ever go back for my master's, I would probably go to WGU. Honestly.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think WG is like that cheat code. But let's talk a little bit about transitioning into engineering roles. So
Mhm.
all your last couple of roles, I believe, um, if you might even count your consulting role as an engineering role because you did a lot of engineering in those
Yeah, I
roles.
was an engineer.
Yeah. So all of your last roles have all been engineering. And then before then you had like the analyst role and some other, internships as well. How was that transition like from working as an analyst to an engineer? And like what were those key things that were able to make you go from analyst to engineer? Because there's definitely a difference in like the skill set
Oh
required to
yeah,
be an engineer compared to what is required to be an analyst. And as an engineer, you actually also have that analyst skill set, which is also why you're an engineer because
exactly.
you're trying to make the analyst job easier, right? So,
Uh-huh.
what did that look like for you, and how did you plan? What did you have to learn? What did you have to do to move from analyst to engineer?
Okay, so that's the thing is, so going from engineering, because the thing is, like, I got into consulting, so like, I didn't purposely try to get into engineering. Like when I left Optiv, I just knew I was going to be a consultant. I knew I was going to be working with like multiple clients. And at the time, when I heard about consultants, it's like, oh, they'll sell spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentation. I was like, man, if this is what this is, I like when I was talking with him, I was like, I've always heard this about, consultants. And if it's anything like that, I do not want to do it because at that I can just stay where I'm at that point. He was like, no, like you're going to actually be like engaged with the clients. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing that. They told me I was going to be doing IR and pen test. So that's what I was really supposed to be doing. So I was like, oh, this is like cool. Like, yeah, let me do it. At the time, I was like, studying for like all different types of certifications when it came to offensive security. I was doing CTF. So I was like doing all types of stuff. And so when I got there, I got through into Splunk. So the thing about security engineering, it is so vague. Like the title security engineer is so vague. So it's
Definitely.
like they may call it Splunk. Like you'll be working on Splunk and doing administration on Splunk. Now you're a security engineer. You
Yeah.
building out third sections. And so when I got there, like I was building out Splunk architect. So at that point, I'm a Splunk architect.
Yeah.
Then I started doing threat hunting. Then I did a couple of pen tests. Then I was doing IR. Like I was doing like I got exposed to everything. Like now I'm building out threat sections using Splunk queries. Now I'm building out, I'm becoming a Splunk developer. Now I'm developing all these dashboards and not through like searches, but actually through the code, like the JSON data. I'm actually
Yeah.
having to do that. So and now like they got me working on certain projects. Now I'm utilizing APIs to pull data. And like it was just like I was doing so much. Like it was like this one incident where this particular company had like this very manual way of updating like their vulnerability management. They go like nist.gov, pull it. They got to go to Red Hat, Microsoft. They got to go to all these different places before they get the information. I'm like, it took two of our like consultants and like hours of work. I'm like, why has no one just built a script to pull the data and automatically ingest it? Like it has an API. Like, what are we doing? So I
Mm.
use the API, pull all the data, upload it. And so I never really tell people, oh, like I can use Python, I can code because I never really want them to have the expectation of like, oh, like he's a
Mm.
developer. No. I always
Yeah.
play down my ability
Yeah.
to code because I don't want to, I don't want to deal with development as much as, I like to try to stay away from as much as I can just because it's so tedious.
Mm.
But as like my career, like I got but I'm getting off topic. But anyways, yeah. So once I started doing all that, and I actually got into a security engineering role. Like when I left there, I believe I went to CD Bank. I think I
Yeah.
went to CD Bank after that, and that's when I started like working on like insider threat programs and vulnerability management and all of that. So it's like, all right, as an engineer, how am I going to help them build this program? So it kind of like went from program level building to also being the engineer that's implementing the changes. So not only am I
Mm.
creating programs, but I'm also the one that's building out the third section. I'm scoping out like what products are we going to use. We're going to use Proofpoint. We're going to use Code 42, DTEX. Like now I'm implementing those and actually having to build threat detections for this stuff. So it's like I just went. It just based on where I was. It just like I started like gaining those skill sets through my job. So like outside of my jobs, I didn't have to do too much learning because I was learning so much on the job as well too.
Yeah.
It was just like, but it's also not one of the things where it's like, oh, take the job because you got to learn. Like I was aware of what these things were, but I just like I learned how to use them on the job. Like I was very familiar
Mhm.
with like, email gateways and collect and process data, CrowdStrike EDRs. Like I was already familiar with this stuff, but now I got to correlate all this data to build out threat sections.
Mm.
And it just kind of went from there. Like as time went on, because I'm not gonna lie, like I got really complacent with my skill set because again, like inside threat is kind of like becoming a new thing over the last couple of years and things like that. So it's like every time like I left a company, I would go to another company, I'm doing the same thing. So it's like I'm just taking what I learned here, applying it here. So it's like now the experience part of things are starting to kick in where like I thought I was really valuable when I came out of college, like as an analyst, but now as an engineer, I've already done all these things. Like I know exactly what to look for. Even when it comes to third section, I know what different environments look like. When I was consulting, I consulted with like 6, 7 different companies like throughout that time. So I know what like a lot of different environments look like and all this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like this doesn't look right. This shouldn't be doing this. Like,
Mm,
okay, you guys don't have like a proxy in place. You guys like what are you using for this? Like how you like where's the data lakes for everything? Like how you storing your
mhm,
data? Like what's in your SIM? Like how you correlating all this? So it was like because I've already had the experience, now it goes in. But now since like time is going over, now I'm at the point of my career where I'm relearning stuff again, or not relearning,
mm,
I'm learning new things again because a lot of things are different. Like, cloud security. Like I was learning cloud then, using AWS and all that. But now I'm really using AWS.
yeah.
Terraform code. Now I'm dealing with like Kubernetes, EKS clusters. I'm dealing with like the third section part thing has always been like more so corporate, like correlating like data that the user is doing. But now I'm like actually in the application now, like the application laws and stuff, and that's completely different. I have the API calls and all that. So it's like, all right, now I'm doing like the offensive security web assessor. Like now I'm trying to understand like web application attacks a little bit more. Like I'm very well aware of like the OWASP top 10 and all that. But it's like when you actually have to apply that skill set to like threat detection, it's completely different. So
Mm,
like when it comes to like CloudTrail logs, easily I can bang out alerts quick. Boom, that's easy. But
yeah.
now I'm having to deal with like internal logs. Now I'm having to deal with stuff, internal tools, customer applications. It's like, all right, what am I looking for now? Like, let me do this,
Mhm.
do that. Now I'm having to learn how to like secure Kubernetes, make it like how we're going to monitor kubectl, like how are we going to
Yeah.
get some of this data here, like are we going to get like the process level data? Like, are we going to use a tool set? We're going to build something like what? Now it's just like a lot of things that like I've never had to deal with.
Yeah.
Now I'm having to learn again. So now I'm
Yeah.
kind of back in that space where it's like, all right, I'm learning. And again, I'm 7, 8 years in the industry and I'm still learning.
Yeah. No, I love that perspective. It's like you just said, like you're 7, 8 years in the industry and you're still learning. And for me, like I can't relate to that because I don't have that level of experience, but to some extent I can relate to having to like learn new things. And back to my experience at Datadog, coming from like an analyst role where it's like Active Directory, Windows, right? It's like you're used to you got to know like the Windows, codes, all of that. Like, once you're familiar with those things, like you can pretty much do some, basic level of analysis. And then like, going into like doing cloud threat detection was I had to learn a whole ton of new things, right? And at Datadog, I build detections for multi-cloud environments. So Azure, AWS, Google
Mhm.
Cloud, Kubernetes, then all the integrations, because Datadog is like a observability company. So we
Yeah.
have a ton of integrations. So Salesforce, One Login, Okta, Auth0, all these things. So I'm having to go read like all these API docs, look at what are the different events that are in these different applications. How can I do detection for them? And for me, like the learning is still continuing till now, and I'm still
Mhm.
at the start of my career. And it's really cool to know that even at 8 years in the industry, like you're having to learn, you're having to build your skill, or even build on what you already have the experience in, right? I think it's really important to highlight the fact that if you really want to be able to succeed in cybersecurity, you have to keep the mindset of being able to continuously learn wherever you find yourself. Because like the skills you might have somewhere else might transfer over, but there might be new
Mhm.
things you have to build on in order for you to like get better at what you do. And like the industry is constantly changing. Like new
Yep.
things are coming in all the time, and you have to be able to like really adapt and assimilate as fast as possible. Yeah, but no, it's definitely really cool that definitely cool to know that you're constantly learning even at that level of experience.
Yeah, nah, man, that's the thing, and that's why I try to tell people I'm all for like people join this industry for the money because I mean, like, cool, but be careful of which job position you
Yeah,
choose. Because
yeah,
even though the money is good, if you don't have like that passion to continue to learn, you're not gonna last long at all. And I
yeah,
try to tell people, I'm like, cybersecurity is it's great money,
yeah,
but like if you're not the type of person that's gonna get on hacker news and all that in the morning before you start trying to figure out, hey, is this a vulnerability that's out that's affecting any of the products that we're using? Or have you passed it? Like, you're not willing to do that,
Yeah.
you're not going to make it in the industry unless you're going to be extremely stagnant and stay
Mm,
as a security analyst. Now, if you're cool with staying as a security analyst, then okay, cool. Because I'm not
yeah.
going to lie, security analyst is probably hands down the easiest position to do because you don't
Yeah.
really screen watching and you're writing service now or Jira tickets. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I serve this.
Yeah, man. All right. So we've talked about, we've talked about Tay, who is the security engineer, the senior security engineer with all these years of experience. But can we talk about TayOnTech, the content creator, right? TayOnTech
Yeah.
on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. Like, well, let's start with like your evolution of content creation, because like I said, I've been following you for a long time. And I know like when you first started creating content on Instagram, you were doing like live streams, like longer form videos. On Twitter, you had like a ton of threads, like I said earlier on, and I would read all those threads. But then you started to evolve into like, now short form content, like all these advice content, even some technical content, YouTube content as well. Like, what does that evolution look like for your content?
For me, I guess kind of the reason why I went that way and went that route because I just seen like I started seeing on like social media like it was a lot of misinformation
Mm,
and like people was being led the wrong way and I was just like I think I have a little influence, so I feel like what I say hold a little weight. People actually
mm,
kind of like take the advice I give them and actually apply it. So I'm like, yeah, I should probably start like actually because like I was on TikTok. And man, the amount of misinformation that I was seeing about like getting to the tech industry or cybersecurity or even software engineering, and I'm not even a software engineer. I'm just like, it's a lot of wrong information. And so
mm,
that's what made me start like, okay, let me actually get on there and like debunk some of this stuff or actually like lead people into the right direction so that they're not getting like misinformation. And that's another reason why I was saying like when it came to certification, because like people think they automatically like qualify now and they have the certification because you have so many people on like the internet, get this certification, get this. I'm like, no, you can get it, but it's not what it's going to be.
mm,
And I try to be like realistic with people, like not really more so like I try to give them like a realistic aspect of like what to expect. Could you
yeah.
make six figures as an entry level engineer? I mean, as an entry level analyst, I did, but
Mm,
also I had like 2 years of experience for internships, and I also had a year of like contracting as a knock and Linux engineer. So yeah, I was an anomaly.
yeah.
People try to push like, oh yeah, you can do this, and even now, like the salaries that you were getting like a year or two ago, they're not as inflated like that now. Like you're not you. I mean, I could go get a senior security engineer for the price that I was going to get a junior, like a new grad. So
Mm,
why would I hire you and I can go hire the senior right here that's have
yeah.
all this experience, he's already established.
Hmm.
So, but I do definitely think if you stick it out and you actually learn and you get into the industry, it's great to be in. Once you're in, like it is hard to get in cybersecurity, but once you're in, you're in.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%. I think that's definitely something that is unique about your content. It's like a mix of like everything, like a mix of like I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you like this is what is real. And as a security professional, giving tips like tips on like salary negotiation, all of those things like that are really beneficial for people who want to break into the industry. And speaking of like working in the industry, like you've definitely had like a unique career over the last 8 years that you've been in the industry. And one thing that is very peculiar about you is your job hopping, right? So I know this is a very controversial topic, right? And I know younger generation, I know we're both in different generations, but your generation and my generation seem to agree on the fact that there's nothing wrong with job hopping. But the
Mhm,
people out after our generation are like, no, you should stay at a job for 5 to 8 years so you can
mhm.
prove loyalty. But what has your experience been with job hopping, and like, what is your take on
I've had a great experience with it because the thing is,
that?
I've actually had one of my managers, actually my manager at Optiv, Ashley,
Yeah.
she specifically told me, she like, honestly, I feel like if my analysts or engineers have not either left here or been promoted within like 18, like 12 to 18 months,
Mm,
I'm not doing my job as a manager because you're not constantly learning, you're not developing any new skills.
yeah.
And she was like, I feel like, in this space, you should move around every 2 to so years as an IC. Like now, if you're in management, it's probably different from job hopping and things like that because you have to be a little bit more stable as a manager. But it's like as an individual contributor, like analyst, engineer, things like that, kind of makes sense. And then when you look at places like Fang and big tech companies, the average tenure is like 12 to 18 months. Like right
Mm,
after they get their vesting, they don't have to pay their sign-on bonus or anything like that. So it's it's I'm not going to say it's kind of expected,
mm,
but I mean, when you look at the tenure, that you see that.
yeah.
So, I mean, and me personally, like, I'm the type of individual, like, one if I don't like somewhere or like I've only had one job I just disliked and I left. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm leaving. But
Hmm.
I don't really leave for the simple fact it's like, oh, more money.
Yeah.
That has a part to do with it too. But it's
Hmm.
more so like I've completed this big project and now it's repetitive because like I'm still in the mindset. I was still in the mindset of a consultant. I'm
Mm,
so used to like every 3 to 6 months, like, all right, I finished the project, I'm on to the next gig. And
yeah.
so it's just like, all right, cool. Like I finished this, it's getting repetitive now. It's time for me to leave. And
Yeah.
so that's why I like the company that I have right now. I love it. Like I can definitely see myself just for the first time in my career. I feel like this is the first time I'm like, I could be here for a few years because it's like
Mm,
so much work and it's like such a new industry that
yeah.
it's like, oh man, like I could, like I'm learning a lot. I'm constantly doing new things. Like, man, we probably got 5 different things going on right now. And I'm
Hmm.
like, damn, like I gotta learn this, I gotta do this. It's like
Yeah.
I can't even keep up, but it's like I
Yeah.
love it.
Hmm.
Because whenever I do decide to leave that company, if I ever do, I'm going to have a skill set out this world.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm going to be a lot more valuable,
Hmm.
versus when I got there than when I
Yeah.
was leaving. So it's like, great. This is amazing.
Definitely great insight. I think you know, everything you said here is like it's things you've said before, right? You've either said it in a Twitter thread, you've said it in a YouTube video, you said it in a like a TikTok video or an Instagram video. So it's like I'm very sure people are not new to like anything you're saying, right?
Mhm.
And I definitely wanted to make sure like we weren't too being too repetitive because like you said all these things before, but I want to make sure like as much as possible we get unique insight into your experience and how you've
Mhm.
gotten this far. But all of that aside, so what is next for Tay or what is next for TayOnTech?
For me, so more so like I'm definitely now pivoting towards like tech reviews, if that makes
Mm,
sense. So I still want to, because the thing, like you said, things get very repetitive when it comes to like career advice,
mm,
tech career advice. It's the same thing. Like it's
yeah.
it's only so much that I can do. I can start sharing like the insight of my personal experience or doing tutorials and things like that, which I do plan on like to do more of and things like that. But like I really have like a passion for technology. So whenever I have like new tech or new lenses or new keyboards and things like that, I'm more so want to review that now, so I can like really get into like the technical space of things. Because like
Mm,
anyway, tech career advice and things like that, that's cool and all, but it's extremely repetitive. It's like I can only make so many videos about, oh, how I landed this job at this age or how I
mm,
got this. You can only make so many of those
yeah,
videos. But when it comes to technology, changing is always it's always changing. It's always
yeah.
something new. And I can always talk about that and still incorporate that
Mhm,
into what I'm doing with my tech career. Because like, are you in tech? You're a security engineer. You're doing product reviews. You're doing all this. So it's like it's all like in the same niche, if that makes
yeah.
sense. So that's kind of what's next for me. If you see on like my Instagram stuff now, you'll probably see more pictures of like my desk setup and
Mhm,
all of that. Like I've been really getting to my camera, playing with it, upgrading it, and brand deals and things like that. So it's like I really enjoy doing this. Like
yeah,
it's great. It doesn't take up all of my time. I mean, it is a lot of work, but
yeah.
it's nothing. I would rather do this than run like a service-based business, if that makes
Mm,
sense. So
yeah.
it's B2B, have my deadlines, I have what I need to do. And then also I just like talking about technology. So,
Mhm,
two birds, one stone. Like I was telling you earlier, I was like, I've always been into technology. I used to fix phones. I used to do all these different things.
yeah,
So now it's like, cool. I get paid to do this.
yeah,
I'll keep doing it.
yeah, yeah. No, I definitely excited for what that looks like for you, and I do want to say like a big thank you for all the content you've made. Like I said, like your content, especially those Twitter threads, like from 3 years ago. I don't know where they are now, but like those threads were like very very helpful for me when I was getting into the industry. And I think you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of insight, and just like truth that is very beneficial for people who want to get to the industry. And I think all that it takes is for people to just apply what you're saying. Like literally go do these things. Like go literally like get the practical experience. Like do things this way, and like it would literally work for you. But thank you so much for hanging out, answering all these questions. And I hope for more success on your content and all of that. But thank you for joining us on the channel today.
Nah, man, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.